Hello and welcome to the War on Error. I'm Graham Hughes. It is the 23rd, Thursday, the 23rd of February 2023. Time marches on. Big hello to John Barleycorn and to Graham Haller and to David. With his message retracted. To Mad Monk, to David, and to Lefty Boater, and to other David, who says, as an Irishman, I have a limited supply of tomatoes for sale or barter. I'll start the bidding at £20 per kilo. I'm Lefty in Glasgow. I was surprised about them having stock. Lidl in Durham has tomatoes, if anyone wants to get their arse over to Durham. In Pity Me. Yes, there's a place called Pity Me in Durham. And they have tomatoes. So we don't have to pity them because they have tomatoes. Knowledge is knowing tomatoes are fruit. Wisdom is not knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. Idiocy is trying to convince people that the shortage is not down to Brexit. Indeed. In fact, people are saying, but, a lot. And you're hearing that a lot. You're hearing the BBC claiming that the current shortage of some fresh fruit and veg is down to the rain in Spain and the Sirocco in Morocco. And apparently that's not really the case because there's no shortages in any other of the EU countries except for the Republic of Ireland, and the stores where there is a shortage in the Republic of Ireland, I'm reliably informed and insured always, is owned by British supermarket Tesco. I don't know. I don't know. I just came here for the shit and giggles. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if this is really what's going on. All I know is Brexit fucks everything. Anyway, something that Brexit did fuck today, which I'm really sorry about, is that I did start this stream at 9 o'clock, bang on. But for some reason, OBS decided not to connect. So we just had a little red block down in the bottom right hand corner, and then it said it was connecting, then it said it wasn't connecting, then it said it was connecting, and then connecting, and I thought, sod this, and I destroyed I turned my computer off and on again. So that's why I was late getting started, which is really annoying because I've just hot-footed it here from Leeds, where I was doing a podcast with Davey Moo for the new Labour Social channel that I shall be launching next month. Watch out for that. But yeah, it's all been a bit bitty, the news this week. We've had the shortages of fruit and veg. We've had the surprise visit to Ukraine by President Biden. We've had an unsurprising address to the nation by Putin, where they're the victim, really, if you think about it. You know, if you think about it, when someone commits a murder, like, who's the real victim there? The person who got murdered or the murderer? Pretty sure it's the person who got murdered, Vlad. Pretty sure that's the person who's the victim, not the murder. Yeah, but what if the murder victim made them do it? Well, they had no choice but to do it. Really? Okay, so how do you work out you had no choice but to invade Ukraine? It was full of Nazis. Oh, tell me more about these Nazis. Well, you know, these are people who basically they're gangsters in charge of a country, and they don't allow free and fair elections, and if you cross them you get thrown out of a window, and they like to, I don't know, persecute minorities, and yeah, total Nazis. Oh, so you mean like you, Vlad? Not like the Jewish Prime Minister and President of Ukraine, not like them who were elected, you see, by people voting in what was seen as relatively free and fair elections. Something that Russia hasn't had for over 2 decades. Something Russia hasn't had this century, and only had once last century, if you think about it. Bloody hell. Anyway. So what I wanted to talk about today a little bit is Labour, because today Keir Starmer was putting out his 5 missions for a better Britain, which is exciting. So I'll tell you what the 5 missions are, and it's kind of good because it's kind of vague, which is what we need from Starmer, really. We need to be more vague and less specific. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but one of the reasons why the Yes vote lost in 2014 in the Scottish independence referendum was that they were very specific about what an independent Scotland would look like. Whereas the reason why so they were unsuccessful. The reason why the Brexit campaign was so successful is they were just vague about it. You know, there might be some money, for the NHS. I actually had an argument with a neo-Nazi type outside St George's Hall a few years ago about this, when the Nazis were in coming out of Lime Street Station for some reason, and they got kettled in by the crowds of Scousers telling them to fuck off. And there's a guy there with his phone. I'm a citizen reporter. Yeah, all right, mate. And he's saying about Brexit, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great, mate. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty shit, mate. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be fucking awful. But yeah, he's there with his phone doing his citizen thing. And I say to him, what about that big lie on the side of a bus? It said £350 million a week, which was a lie. And then it said, we're going to spend it on the NHS. And he said, no, it didn't. It said, let's spend it on the NHS. It was merely a suggestion. To which I laughed in his stupid fucking face. Stupid, ugly face, actually. Anyway, so being vague, if you want to win an election, is quite a good thing, I feel. Because if you're too specific, people will pick you up on it and say, well, you said you were going to do X, Y, Z and you haven't done it. And so we're gonna be really angry about that. And don't forget that in 1997, when Labour got in, they didn't put in their manifesto that they were going to introduce tuition fees. And then they did. In fact, in 1945, when Labour got in, they didn't say they were going to help develop the atomic bomb. But they did. So, yeah. Just be vague, guys. So the five missions that will drive a Labour government and restore pride and purpose in our country is, first of all, they're going to secure the highest sustained growth in the G7. That sounds all right, doesn't it? Does that sound all right? We can do that. Let's see if we just bring this behind me here, and then I'm just going to bring it up on the screen. You're not going to be able to see this very well because Dick Eddy is going to be in the way. But yeah, that looks really shit, Graham. All right, I'll just sort of move over here so you can see it. There you go. I'm going to recline like Jacob Rees-Mogg with me Eevee slippers on. Secure the highest sustained growth in the G7. Good luck with that. Build an NHS fit for the future. Make Britain's streets safe. Break down the barriers to opportunity at every stage. And finally, you can't see because the mic's in the way. Make Britain a clean energy superpower. Yay! That all sounds great, doesn't it? That sounds great. That all sounds good. I like the sound of that. I've got a few issues. The main issue being, obviously, that I'm gonna just move it over to. I just want to move it over to the right a little bit. So now I have to go over here. Get out the way. Right, so here we go. This is better. This is much better. Although my arm looks a bit weird, doesn't it, on the monitor? Okay, so anyway, secure the highest sustained growth in the G7. Yeah. Okay, that's very vague. But at least it's a tangible goal, I guess, because at the moment we've got the lowest growth in the G7. Actually, we've got the lowest growth in the G20. In fact, we've got the slowest growth in the G40. In fact, I think we've got the slowest growth in, like, the developed world. Good old Brexit, eh? Build an NHS fit for the future. Just fund the NHS, please. But, I mean, I suppose that's saying the same thing. Yeah. Make Britain's streets safe. Well, that would require us to, I don't know, maybe sack all the fucking police officers who are going around committing crimes. Or at least vet them before they become police officers so we can make sure that they're not completely evil. And then we've got make Britain a clean energy superpower. Oh, sorry, break down barriers to opportunity at every stage, which basically means they've got to get rid of private schools. Great! And maybe grammar schools as well. Even better. Just get rid of them and have all comprehensive so that billionaires have to send their kids to comprehensives. And then you'll have a billionaire on your PTA, which will really help on the jumble sales. You know, when you have the jumble sales and the quiz night and the little tombola things to raise a little money for the school, instead of doing all that, you can just say, could you just lend us a little bit of money? Maybe like 1% of the interest you earn a day on your vast fortune. And they'll go, okay. Some of them will. Most of them won't because most billionaires are fucking tight. But yeah, and then finally make Britain a clean energy superpower, which is something that I agree with. I don't like the word superpower. I don't think we'll ever be a superpower again, and I don't think we should have been one in the first place, because we weren't very nice when we were a superpower. We were very evil, actually. But one thing that annoys me about this is that the leading isn't quite right. So if you look at this one at the top here, this pink one, right, that's one block, right? And then we've got the breakdown, that's one block, right? But you look at the bottom one, and that's two distinct lines. So Make Britain a Clean has got a white line underneath it, when that should be one block to be consistent with this one and this one. Hashtag just saying. I'm just saying. I mean, it's not going to keep me up at night, but seriously, if you gotta design something, get me to do it. Anyway, so I don't like the Union Jack on there as well. The bloody fucking Union Jack on everything. We'll have to put the Union Jack on, or people will think we're talking about a different country. Indeed. Right, back into your comments, your lovely comments, to see if anyone's written anything to me. By the way, I actually got the slightly more expensive train back from Leeds tonight, so I could do this show. So thanks very much, fucking TPE, for charging me a ridiculous amount of money for going just a few miles down the road. But if anyone wants to drop in a super chat tonight, I'd be really, really welcome, because that might cover that little difference in the train fare that I had to put up with, because our trains are ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I managed to get some cherry tomatoes today from Lidl in Durham, and I realised it was half a kilo, and so there's probably about 20 tomatoes in there, maybe a few more, and I realised that if I sold those tomatoes for £5 each, because obviously these little cherry tomatoes are in great demand at the moment, supply and demand, all that jazz. If I sold all of those tomatoes for £5 each, right, I still wouldn't have enough for a train ticket to London. Fun. Anyway, right. I'm as an Irishman, says David. Hang on, we're going back. Who's up for cheese and turnip sandwich? Oh yes. Does someone say bacon, lettuce, cheese? Now is bacon, lard, and turnip. But Borgic would love turnip sandwiches. Probably wouldn't share. Indeed, not. Spain is not raining, and tomatoes anywhere. Don't mention the B word, for fuck's sake. Lie, Graham. It is a lie. It was a whole sunny week here in Spain. Eye up. If you're a Tory member or donor, then the victim is at fault. As the Tories don't take the blame for anything. Yeah, that's very true. I wish John Ski would befall a physical discourtesy. Okay. Defenestration. Great word. And it doesn't get picked up by the YouTube censors. Yes. Concerned citizen. What about free broadband? Hi everyone. Yeah, exactly. Hi Phil. Let's make a compromise on making it a superpower like that. Does making the UK a green energy superpower involve nuclear power plants on every street corner? I don't think so. Get the line straight, goddammit. Graham Hughes, 2023, human of the lead with the human resistance. Come on, get the leading right. It's lead. It's a space between the lines. It's called leading. Just get it right. Or alter afford heating for 10 minutes, says Ben. Yes, indeed. Well, I'm actually wearing two hoodies. I'm double hoodied up. I did have my beanie on before I came on. I just swapped it for my hat. I might have to put my beanie on at some point because I'm fucking freezing. We haven't got the heating on. Before I came down, I said to Kat, I'm going downstairs. I better put another jumper on. So we've got like two hoodie hues. And she goes, we could put the heating on, And I'll be like, no, because it will actually be £20. To put the heating on for this show would be £20. And I don't think I'm going to make £20 in super chats. No offense, but I'm not that popular. And so it was like, yeah, I just go down. I'll just freeze. So yeah, indeed, that is a good point, Ben. Phil says BBC Radio 5 are desperate this morning not to discuss anything about Brexit regarding food shortages. BBC actually doing gaslighting. Yeah, it's not the fault of the fact that we've put up trade barriers to our nearest and dearest trading neighbours. It's not the fact that we've exited the common agricultural policy. which was brilliant because it meant that there were no food shortages for staple food around Europe because they had this supply and demand and you could get it from anywhere in Europe and there were no restrictions and you'd have to set things up. And it's turned out that the government said that they had this liner set up to go to, I don't know, Rabat or somewhere in Morocco, Casablanca in Morocco, and get all this great fruit and bring it back to the UK. And it was bullshit. It was absolute bullshit. There was actually fucking tweets from the government about this new ship that was going to be bringing things from Morocco and it was going to bypass the EU, the evil EU. And it was bullshit. It never happened. It never took place. And something else. There's literally no global problem that Brexit won't make worse for Britain. Yeah, but that's the thing about this gaslighting. There has been too much rain in Spain. There has been the Sirocco blowing in Morocco, which has caused all kinds of problems. But everywhere else has managed to deal with those problems. Because of Brexit, we can't. Because we voted to not be able to do that. Anyway, I just want to tell you a little bit about the chat I had with Davey Moo, who I really recommend following on TikTok. He's very funny. He's very dry wit. He's very astute as well. And we were talking a little bit about Labour and where it's going next. And one of the things that we both felt is that Starmer really needs to. When I say vague is good, right? I'll give you an example. Don't say we're not going to rejoin the single market. Just say all options are on the table. That's what Boris Johnson did. He just said, all options are on the table. And it was like, okay, all right, well, we don't know what you're going to do, but I'm sure you'll do something great, Johnson. Right. But the point remains that that would be a better way of doing it than saying we're definitely not going to do X, Y, Z. Or we're definitely going to do X, Y, Z, because it will keep people like me and people who are ostensibly Labour supporters, but are not really enamoured with the whole fact that we spent 3 years of our life, nearly 4 years of our lives, fighting against fucking Brexit, only to have that whole experience thrown back in our face. And, why did you bother? Why did you bother? Why did you bother trying to stop the country from committing an epic act of self-harm? Because even though it is now the will of the people to rejoin the EU, and it is, if you look at any kind of polls, it looks like if we had a referendum tomorrow out the people who would actually bother to vote, we will get a majority for rejoining the EU. Not just thinking that Brexit is a bad idea, but actually rejoining the fucking EU. Because more people want to rejoin it than think that we were right to actually fucking leave it. So if push came to shove and we had a decent campaign to say, look, things are shit at the moment, they're not going to get any better until we rejoin the EU. Or at least a single market and the customs union. That'd be great. So yeah, we want that. And also, another great line that Starmer could be using, that he's, this is one for free, mate. Kia, if you're watching, just say, I will listen to what the people want. It's really simple. They've been using this will of the people line for the last 7 long, goddamn, ugly, horrific years. But the whole line about the will of the people was a lie, because it wasn't the will of the people. But you could use that same line to say, I will find out what people want, and I will do that, because we Labour, or the Greens, or the SNP, or Plaid Cymru, or the Lib Dems, we are servants of the people. So if the people want us to go back into the single market, then we'll go back into the single market. It's not up to me to say what the British people want. The hard-working, righteous, sons of the salty soil British people, what they want, that's what goes. And that's better than a fucking flag, I reckon. Yeah. Anyway, now gammons are saying people should grow their own, dig for victory type stuff. Yeah, I wondered how long that would take. The country just feels bereft of any hope. Thank you for your good humour and political enthusiasm. Your content keeps us all going. Oh, thank you, Ben. You're very kind. But yeah, you guys keep me going. Your comments. I come here. I try to keep a schedule, but I've not been so great recently at being on time and making sure that shows go out when they're supposed to on every day, for various reasons. But obviously, it is difficult. I mean, it was a lot easier during lockdown because you couldn't make any appointments. You couldn't fucking go anywhere. So it was a lot easier to keep to a schedule. But in the last year, I guess, since the invasion of Ukraine, in fact, it's been a bit more difficult. So tomorrow, sort of segueing over to Ukraine now. Tomorrow marks the 1-year anniversary of the thing that all of the right-wing gobshites that you see on TV, all the GB newsers and the Talk TV twats, all the things, they all said, oh, it won't happen. You know, he's just saber-rattling. He's just put all his army around, like surrounding Ukraine in Russia and Belarus. But he's not actually going to attack. He's not actually going to attack Ukraine. And American intelligence were like, he's going to attack Ukraine. He will attack Ukraine. They've been saying that for months up to this point. And then he attacked Ukraine. And people like Nigel Farage was out there going, oh, well, I was wrong. I was wrong about Vlad. I thought he was on our side. Well, no, he's still on your side, mate. Believe me, he's still on your side. And one of the things that like has come in the last year is there is a certain amount of satisfaction that other people now finally understand that Vladimir Putin is the world's biggest cunt. That's good, right? Because before the invasion, it was pretty difficult to persuade people of that. But it's heartbreaking that it's taken an invasion of a country, the deaths of thousands of innocent civilians who have been raped, who have been tortured by Russian troops, Russian mercenaries. This has all happened on our doorstep in Europe, in our continent. And we can do what we can. We can support Ukraine to an extent. Obviously, we're not in a position to put troops on the ground because that could start World War III, and that's obviously a serious worry. But the other worry is that this is going to drag on and on and on. And we could be here in a year's time. And the 2-year anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine, and the 3-year anniversary, the 4-year anniversary. I'm hoping Putin will be defenestrated by then. Like a lot of the people that he knows have been defenestrated. It's funny that. And by some of the comments that are being made by the Wagner Group leaders, who are the private mercenaries of Putin's army or whatever gangster fucking government that he's got. They've been a lot more vocal in the last few days about the lack of weapons and bullets and things like that. And yeah, good. Glad to see that it's fucking up for them. But the worry is this will just keep going on and on and on because it's all Putin's got left. This is only going to end one way. The only way this war will end is with the end of Putin. And isn't that horrific? There are 8 billion people on this planet. 8 billion people. That is a ridiculous fucking number. If you started counting 1, 2, 3, 4, by the time you got to 8 billion, you'll be dead. Even if you didn't sleep. If you stayed awake and just counted out loud those numbers, you wouldn't get anywhere near 8 billion. You'd die before you did. Even if you did eat and sleep and shit and have a bath, whatever, you would still die because it would take that long. It is a ridiculous number of humans. That's how many humans are on the planet at the moment. And the power of one man, and it's always a man, it's just horrific. Like, how can one person have that much power? What system is in place that allows that one person to have that much power? And then we have the UN, which is supposed to rein these fuckers in, but it doesn't, because it allows countries like Russia and Britain and France and the US and China to pretty much invade anyone they want because they're on the Security Council. They are the permanent members of the Security Council. So if any resolutions go through the UN saying, hey, get out of that country, they can just say, veto, just veto it. We're just going to ignore it. We don't give a fuck. Great system, guys. The other part of that great system is if a dictator such as Saddam Hussein invades his neighbor, Kuwait, and his country isn't part of the Security Council, obviously sanctions, war can be carried out against him. But if you are the leader of a country and you instigate a civil war against your own people, like al-Assad did in Syria, the UN can't do anything about it. In fact, the UN makes it worse. And the reason why the UN makes it worse, and this might seem a bit funny, like to say, wow, how does the UN make that worse? The UN gives diplomatic immunity. Sorry, that's a terrible South African accent, but then again, Josh Ackland's accent in Lethal Weapon 2 was pretty bad as well. Diplomatic immunity. So basically, if you are the leader of a country, the UN says that you cannot go to jail for any of the human rights atrocities that you commit while you're still leader of that country. The moment that you are not leader of that country anymore, Slobodan Milosevic, you could be arrested and thrown in The Hague. So where's the incentive, Robert Mugabe, of ever giving up power? You've got this choice. You can have a state president and live in a palace and fly to fucking Paris on Concorde to go shopping and do whatever the fuck else you want to do as a dictator of a country. Or you can go to jail. What are you going to do? So Putin, he's going to be leader of Russia till the day he dies. He's not going to step down. He's not going to step down. Because if he does, he'll be done for war crimes. He will get done for war crimes, one way or another. Because the only way they're going to get rid of him is by having a fucking revolution. Another revolution. They've had three already. They had the Democratic Revolution of 1917. Then they had the Red Revolution, the Communist Revolution of 1917, which didn't take out the Tsar. The Tsar had already been taken out by the Democratic Revolution earlier in the year. The October Revolution was the Reds, the Communists, and they took over from the fledgling democracy that was still trying to get onto its feet. Then you could argue there was another revolution in 1991 with the fall of the USSR. But now I think we need another revolution in Russia. But the problem is, if you're Russian, you look at like democracy differently to what we do. You look at the West as like this decadent thing where people can be gay and they can be transgender people. I mean, can you imagine they have transgender people like we have in society since the dawn of fucking humanity? But you know, and their experience of democracy for a few years in the 1990s, it was pretty shit. It was pretty shit. There wasn't enough food for people to queue up for potatoes. The people lost all their money. They were sold into sexual slavery. They were sent off to fucking die in Grozny, in Chechnya. And it was shit. They lost their jobs. They had a job all through their life. They were working at the same job, you know, screwing the tops onto fucking Russian toothpaste tubes for 40 years. And then suddenly we closed down the toothpaste factory. And then they're out of a job. And it's just their experience in the 1990s, the collective experience of the fall of the Soviet Union, pretty fucking rough. Whereas other countries that turned to the West and got involved in the EU, like Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, did really fucking well. They embraced the new opportunities that were given to them by the fall of the Berlin Wall and the breakup of the Soviet Union. But Russia didn't. Russia turned away, especially under Putin, to say, no, we're better than everyone else. We don't want to be involved in this club with other people, you know, working together. Sound familiar? Working together for a common interest. No. We want to go it alone. We want to stand on our own 2 feet. And unfortunately for Russia, just as unfortunately for the UK, the place is run by gangsters. In the UK, they're posh gangsters who don't necessarily kill people. Well, not themselves, but you know, in Russia, it's pretty much run by the Russian mafia. The Russian mafia run everything in Russia. So if you cross Vladimir Putin, you cross any of these oligarchs, you get killed. That's it. That's the deal. That's the social contract. Keep your head down. We'll make sure that you got food and some money and a roof over your head. Don't upset the apple cart and let the gangsters do what they want. And it's that same sort of. I always think of Pablo Escobar and the way he endeared himself to the impoverished people of Medellin in Colombia. But I also think of Doug and Dinsdale Piranha, the deadly Piranha brothers from Monty Python, where there was these sketches, and it was like a documentary about these brothers who were based on the the craze, and everyone's saying, oh, they were so lovely, they only killed their own, they really looked after people when they weren't nailing my head to this table. And that love for those gangsters is kind of weird and creepy, and I don't really understand it myself. But you find that whereas if it was a case of someone just doing a murder, for instance, people say, what an evil person to do that murder. That doing that murder is bad. And then you go, yes, but it was a gangster doing the murder. Oh, that's kind of cool, isn't it? Yeah, like assassins are cool, man. No, it's still a fucking murder. Someone died violently when they didn't need to. I mean, it's pretty horrific. Yeah, but gangsters, yeah, cool. People have this attitude towards gangsters. It drives me. Well, anyway, the people in charge of this country, fucking gangsters. But then people in charge of Russia, next level gangsters. So Putin, 1 year in to this ridiculous fucking war in Ukraine that he started, that he didn't need to start, that he lied to everyone about how NATO was expanding. And do you know what? Those fuckers, those Brexity cunts like fucking, Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage, they got on board with this whole oh, it's the EU's fault. Nah, Boris Johnson said it was the EU's fault that Vladimir Putin invaded Crimea in 2014. He blamed it on the fucking EU. What the fuck? Yes, well, if it wasn't for the EU, it wouldn't have happened. Oh! We were provocating him by doing so well and being successful and getting all getting along in Europe, whereas Russia, the economy was stagnating, and it was all based on an economy of commodities that can go up in value and down in value, which is never a good idea. Which is why we're not part of the gold standard, dickheads. I love old people where they go, oh, we should go back to the gold standard. And you're like, well, then we couldn't dictate the value of our currency. It would be dictated by people, other countries, with gold. Do we have any gold? Does Papua New Guinea have gold? Yeah. Does South Africa have gold? Yeah. So what you're saying is you want the value of our currency to be based on how much gold the people of Papua New Guinea have. Okay, what a great system. That makes sense to your fucking tiny little shriveled lead-lined mind. Sorry, just went off on one about the gold standard there. It's really funny. I have these conversations with people who don't know what they're talking about, and I don't necessarily know what I'm talking about at the best of times, but I know a bit more than them. Anyway, right. Now gammons are saying to grow your own. I've read that one. Ernie says, the sunk cost fallacy is very difficult to break away from, even if you know it's wrong. That's very true, Ernie. Sunk cost fallacy, this is a gambling thing where you've already put so much, or an investment thing, where you put so much money into something, then you're like, well, I've already put that much money into it, so I may as well keep going. When the best thing to do is just to give up. It's just kind of, fuck it, walk away. Walk away from this unhappy marriage. These fucking Tories. Diane says, how can we hope public cottons on to the real issues when mainstream news includes ex-EastEnders star admittance to hospital with not enough cash to pay for taxi as being why NHS is in trouble? The mainstream media is horrific. It's painful to see the false equivalents every fucking day, and it's going to destroy the world. I was going to say it's going to destroy the country. I think it's already done that. It's going to destroy the world, because every time in my lifetime, every time they've had a scientist on to talk about global climate change, they've always had to have some fucking yahoo who doesn't know shit on there going, I don't believe this is really happening. Oh, and I'm posh, so you should listen to me. And you're like, what the fuck? What are they doing on there? What are they doing on there? You should have two scientists who are arguing perhaps over what scenario is most likely to happen, given global warming is a fact. You know? If you want to debate, have a debate about that. Have a debate about the timeline before our fucking houses all go underwater. Let's have a debate about have a debate about the timeline before there's not enough food, there's not enough arable land left to feed the number of people that are in the world. How about we have that? Yeah, you know when the sun, like when the heat starts going further north in temperate areas, turns into tropical areas, expands the fucking Sahara Desert, desertification around the world. And then we're going to go, oh no, but it'd be all right because the soil, we could all this permafrost soil up in Siberia, we can farm that, can't we? No, we fucking can't, because it's not particularly nutritious fucking soil. A lot of it in the Arctic tundra has just had fucking millions of years of pine fucking needles land on it, and they're not particularly nutritious. Yeah, no. It's not the same as having like a tropical rainforest that once used to be, in a particular area and isn't there anymore, and the soil is really, really good quality, or volcanic. Volcanic soil is usually quite good quality. No, none of that. Literally shit soil. It'll be like trying to farm on Mars. Because there's not enough nutrients in the fucking soil. You have to put the nutrients in the soil. We don't have enough fucking nitrates because we've already used the fucking nitrates that we could get from places like Nauru and Ocean Island. All that lot. That's already gone. All the easy to reach stuff anyway. We're in a lot of trouble in a lot of ways. But instead of having two scientists arguing over whether this thing will happen before that happens, we have a scientist and someone who's not a scientist. And the person who's not a scientist invariably goes, "Oh, I don't believe this is really happening. Oh, I'm partial. Listen to me." And it fucks me off. It should fuck you off as well. What system? A kleptocratic oligarchy. Naturally, indeed. Get me rigs, says Ben Riddings, indeed. Get me rigs. Good evening, everyone. Hope all is well from Daily Blase. Hey, Darren, how you doing, mate? Always nice. Always lovely to have Daily Blase, isn't he? He's always so polite and nice. Asperger's Europe says, good evening. Hi, Asperger's. How you doing? Lefty Boater is saying evening to Daily Blase. But he's put down Bailey Blase, which I quite like. I think you should change your name, Darren. Graham, you are my LGBT hero. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, David. David. Good evening, Lefty Boater and Philip Crossy. Everyone's saying good. I love the way in the comments here that everyone says hello to each other. It's really sweet. Hi, how you doing? A little gang get together on Thursdays and Mondays and, sort of just whinge about the fact that the government is shit and the whole country's going to fucking hell in a handcart. In fact, the whole fucking world's going to hell in a handcart. Oh. Well, at least we can tell some jokes on the way down, I guess. Keep the spirits up. We're like the band playing on the fucking Titanic. That's what we're like. Oh, my God. Anyway. Yeah, mate, he nailed me head to the table. I wouldn't hear a word against him. That's from John Barleycorn in that voice. Joey says Graham for PM. Oh, thank you. I think he means the afternoon. I'm much better in the afternoon. In the AM, I'm just not with it. These people don't care about you. Says, I believe the transport costs to get supplies to the UK located somewhere in the mid-Atlantic apparently are too great. Yep. So apparently Johnson wants to run for the post of Secretary General of NATO. What? Oh, that man hasn't a clue. I hate him. I really do hate Boris Johnson. I thought of writing something. Oh, an All-American then. I thought of writing something. I thought of writing something a while ago, and I feel this way about quite a few of these obnoxious gobshites that have come out the woodwork in the last sort of 10 years or so. And I was specifically thinking about Julia Hartless-Brewer, who is a particularly noxious columnist for one of those cunt rags, Daily Mail or something, the Daily Heil. And she's a horrific human being. She doesn't believe in climate change. She whinged about having to wear a mask because, that might help other people not die of COVID. She whinged about lockdown. She whinges about everything. She's always on the TV, gob on a stick, whinging about stuff. And when she dies, and she will die one day, loads of people are going to be really happy. I'll be one of them. I like to think when I die, not that many people are going to be happy about it. Most people will be like, who? But the people who know me and my family and friends, I hope they're not too upset. And they go, well, he did a lot of stuff in his life. He had a good time. And that's the main thing. But, I don't think there's going to be anyone dancing in the streets. I don't think I've fucked anyone off enough. I don't think I've created myself as some sort of pantomime villain so that when, I finally cark it, people are like literally having parties, like what happened when Margaret Thatcher carked it. But with Julia Hartless-Brewer, when she does cark it, there's going to be loads of people, thousands of people on Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and YouTube going, fuck yeah, thank God. Yes, she's dead. Ding dong, the witches, etc. Right? Like you saw with Thatcher. And her kids are going to have to see that. And that's her choice, by the way. I don't feel any sympathy or sorrow for her. She has decided to be the most obnoxious person in that particular public sphere of newspaper columnists. She's put herself out there to just make people's lives a misery for her own fucked up gratification and money, you know? She's a little money grubbing fucker, like a lot of these people are. And so the one thing that I you know, if I could speak to her and say, you know, do you really want that? Do you really want your kids and perhaps grandchildren to see people celebrate your death? That's not, that would be a horrible thing. I know everyone has these sort of funeral fantasies where you think about, what are people going to say about me when I'm dead? Imagine people were literally dancing in the street. That's what's going to happen with Johnson. That's what's going to happen with Rees-Mogg. It's going to happen with all these fucking Tory fuckers. It's going to happen with Trump. Absolutely. When Trump fucking carks it in the next 10 years, there's going to be parties all over the fucking world. When Putin carks it, I mean, fuck, I'm out. I'm going for a week-long fucking bender when that guy goes out of a fucking window. And I'm not wishing death on people here. I'm just saying we are mortal and at some point we will all cark it. But don't you think, like, if you had the choice and you weren't just a sociopath like Putin or Trump, you would want people to treasure your legacy and go, oh, well, you know, I'm a bit sad they're dead. And I think about this because this week we've had J.K. Rowling, who I feel has just destroyed her own legacy with her real weird assault on trans people. I don't know what the fuck is with her and why this is a huge issue for her and why she woke up in the middle of the night one day a few years ago and went, oh my God, trans people exist. Ah! I'm sure she thinks she's being a very, very good feminist. She's really not. She's actually making life more difficult for anyone who wants bodily autonomy. That includes the women who would like abortions. Thank you very much. You'll find that transphobia and not wanting women to have abortions pretty much go hand in hand, especially in America. But I feel like she's talking, and she was interviewed this week in a podcast, and she said, well, I don't care. I don't care about my legacy. I don't care what people think about me. I'll be dead. And I'm like, really? Really? Because even authors that maybe said or did bad things in their life, like Roald Dahl, for instance, he said some pretty horrific anti-Semitic things. He was in the news this week because the publishers and his estate, who have the right to do whatever they want with his books, decided to change literally a few words in the book. And obviously the usual pearl clutchers. The same people who wanted video nasties banned in the 1980s are now going, oh, but you can't change the past. You can't change these words because, you know, I mean, imagine if you are an overweight kid and you're reading this fucking book and every other word is like about how this kid is so fat. He's an awful person because he's so fat. I mean, I can understand why they'll go, well, that's not very sensitive, is it? We want anyone to be able to read these books and enjoy them. And yeah, there's a few things that just make us a little bit uncomfortable. There are a few changes that I don't really understand. I don't know why they changed them, but there were a few where I went, yeah, okay, I get that. And I'm not arsed. You know, I was a huge Roald Dahl fan as a kid. But when I think of his legacy, he's left these great books for kids to read. They're a bit gruesome, but then kids love that. Yeah, that's great. But I don't feel he went out of his way to make it so that when he finally carked it in 1990, I think, 91, when he did die, people weren't partying. People weren't like, you know, yay, good that anti-Semite has gone, because there was no Twitter then. He wasn't a newspaper columnist who was hated for writing horrible bilge about people, like what Richard Littlejohn does. Or like fucking Kelvin MacKenzie was in the news this week. He was tweeting about, was it nurses? No, young doctors. Kelvin MacKenzie, this guy, this lying piece of shit who said that Scousers urinated on the rescue services, the emergency services at Hillsborough, and stole money from the pockets of the dead in Hillsborough. This is what this fucker, this privately educated, of course, fucker put on the front of his fucking shit rag newspaper, The Sun, in 1989, in April 1989. And he's still alive for some fucking reason. I have no idea why. And he's this week he had to go at junior doctors saying they were lazy. I was just like, what the fuck? Seriously? He's having a go at young. And then I guess the people who like that kind of shit are like, yeah, young doctors, fuck them. It's mind blowing. when Calvin Mackenzie dies, I'm going to have a fucking party. In fact, I think from now till when I cark it, most of the parties that I'm going to be having are going to be celebrations of some absolute thunder cunt who I fucking despise dying. Sue me. I don't care. Charlie, £2 super chat. Yay! Thank you, Charlie. Will you be on Discord tonight, Graham? Yes. Go on then. I'll head over there in a bit because I was a bit late today getting on to this. So I will be over on the Discord server. I'll get you a link up in a moment. It is 10 o'clock. It's actually 10 o'clock. Well, that went quick. We are all polite in Yorkshire, says young Ralph. Indeed. The sustaining power of the British Empire came from lots of bird poop from the islands. It did indeed. Well, and slavery and rape and pillage, which the British Empire did really, really well at, unfortunately. Not that the people who want to preserve our history by having statues in the middle of town squares to slave traders want you to know that, because when they talk about preserving history, they don't really want you to talk about history. Not the stuff they don't like anyway. They want you to talk about Hitler and how bad Hitler was. Wasn't Hitler bad? Yeah, Hitler was bad. Wasn't Churchill great for standing up against Hitler? Yeah, I guess for a few years. Yeah, that was pretty good. Let's not mention the General Strike or Gallipoli. Or the Bengal famine. Yes, anyway, but that's my point. Where are we with the comments here? Pretty sure the UK was supposed to be somewhere in the Pacific by now. I know we're not going very fast. We're moving slowly, an inch every century away from the EU. Dollar Auction is a great game. Fucking hell indeed. What do you think the sewage is for? Duh. The sustaining power of the British Empire. Blah blah blah. Ernie Ben says, not only is it Julia Hartley's brewer's choice, it's her living. Yeah, I know. That's why I got no sympathy for it. But I do have, I find it sad that she thinks it's acceptable that when her kids lose their mum, she thinks it's acceptable that they will also have to stomach seeing people reacting with glee. Even if they don't mean to. I mean, even if they're they're trying to be nice about it. I mean, I think most sensible people in this country, if you said to them, hey, Julia fucking Hartley Brewer's been fucking, died in some tragic, hilarious accident. Most people go, yes. At least. They might not go so far as to actually have a street party. Although they might. I don't know. Isabel Oakeshott too. Yep, another privately educated gobshite. John Barleycorn says, wasn't it Mark Twain who said he wouldn't wish anyone dead, but the number of obituaries he's looking forward to reading? Yes, it was Mark Twain. Yeah. Again, Mark Twain, fantastic writer, massive, brilliant satirist of his age. Came out with some really great zingers that are still in use today, like that one. And yet he used the N-word a lot in his books, which, nowadays that isn't acceptable. And so to take that out of his books, I think that's fair enough. I honestly believe that, yeah, okay, we can do that. Little secret just between you and me. We edited the Bible. There was this council of Nicosia or something, right, in 482 fucking AD or something. And they got together and they decided which bits were going into the Bible and which bits weren't. And they decided on certain translations of certain words. And if you read the Bible in English, there are different versions. There's a New International Version. Obviously, there's King James Version. There's different versions of the same book where they have substituted certain words for other words. You see what I'm getting at here? And that's the fucking Bible. That's the word of God. That's the word of the inventor of the universe. If you're going to go down that route of saying, well, you can't change any words, then yeah, good luck reading it in the original Amoraic. What's it called? Amoretic? I don't know. Amaretto. Good luck reading it in the original Amaretto. Oh, shit. I knew I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue. When Truff Too late. I'm falling apart. It's all getting horrible now. Quick, to Discord! When Trump snuffs his naff little candle, we should do the YMCA around the world. That would be great. Actually, we should do that for Putin, actually, because he's a famous homophobe, isn't he? Hey, what happened to the Brexit Festival fading itself? Oh, we spent £120 million on the Brexit Festival that no one went to. Hi, young Ralph, you're so right. Wondering what publicists are going to do with my Uncle Oswald. Indeed. Turns out there was nothing to unbox. Oh, that was the unboxing festival, wasn't it? The scum live longer out of spite. Yeah. Well, that's my theory for, like, you know, the way couples live longer, like married couples live longer than people who are not married and people who are single. And one of the reasons that might be spite, because you get to a point where you've been married for 50 years and you just fucking hate each other and you just start sitting there going, I'm not going to be the one who fucking dies first. You first, motherfucker. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever be in that situation, but yeah. bit dark. Junior doctors doing 13-hour shifts, the lazy sods, and Kelvin McKenzie. Fucking privately educated, fat little Nazi who has never done an honest day's work in his fucking life. He's just done dishonest days fucking shirking. That's all he's done. He's an absolute shitbag. And yet they invite him on the BBC to come and pontificate about shit. Unbelievable. I'm trying to argue with a Corbyn cultist. Good luck with that, my friend. All cultists are a challenge, indeed. When Farage died, we should do a big gay conga. Yes, we should. On his grave. Mark Twain in my college, we called it Fucked Berry Finn Huckle. What? Aramaic, that's it. Thank you very much, Yoni. In the original Aramaic. Get it right. Aromatic. The original aromatic. It's an illusion. It just seems longer. Sorry, I was watching Larry and Paul. Oh, it's fine. You don't have to apologise, Richard. I know you love me, really. Anyway, listen, I'm going to wrap it up soon. Just let me get the Discord server link for you. So if you're watching this and you haven't joined us on Discord, you can go over there to the After Hours chat. We will have a chat. I will pull out my headphones. I got my headphones. And I'll change my hat to my red hat. Just let me get this. Let me get this up, as the actress said to the bishop. Oh, what? I just started typing in Discord and it took me to the Discovery fucking channel. Right. Open Discord. Hello. Labia are red Tories, but not more precious Corbyn. What, the guy who supported the flagship Tory policy or Brexit for 4 years? Yeah, not a red tie Tory. All right, mate, if you say so. The privately educated career politician who can't listen to anyone. He couldn't listen. One of the things that drove me up the wall about, well, the many things that drove me up the wall about Corbyn is that he and a lot of his little acolytes will constantly tell you that he is a lifelong anti-racism activist. He's a lifelong anti-racism activist. So that somehow absolves him from any blame for the horrific anti-Semitism that went on in the Labour Party under his watch. But also, like, I think David Baddiel pointed this out. I'm not the first person to say it, but in a way, it kind of like, it stops him from seeing his own mistakes when it comes to racism, when it comes to things that he's done. He wrote the foreword to a book that was anti-Semitic. He commented on a mural that was anti-Semitic, and he couldn't see that it was anti-Semitic because in his head, and he is quite thick. He's quite a one of these posh, privileged thickos that unfortunately run a lot of things in our country. In his head, he can't possibly be racist, so nothing he does can possibly be racist because he's a lifelong anti-racist activist. So it shows like a very kind of like an Arrested Development, I guess, in a way, but it shows that he's not really, he has no objective view of himself. It's all about him. And if you have the argument with someone and say, you just hit that person. No, I didn't. Yeah, I saw you hit that person. No, I didn't. I'm a lifelong anti-violence campaigner. Okay, that's great, but I saw you do it. Yeah, but you got to understand, I'm a lifelong anti-violence activist. You know, I've been on marches, mate, with placards saying "down with violence." I would never hit someone. I saw you hit someone. Look, we've got a fucking videotape of you literally hitting someone. Nah, it can't be me because, you know, I remember coming back to my travels when I was in Gabon on the back of a truck. And I remember saying to the guy next to me, we were having a chat, and I said, "It's raining." And he goes, "No, it's not." And I went, "It is." And he went, "No, it's not the rainy season." And I went, "Okay, logic." That's exactly the same thing. It's like, no, it is raining. I don't care whether it's the rainy season or not. I mean, it wasn't pissing it down. It was just spitting. So I guess in his view, he was like, "Stupid Westerner. This isn't rain. This is not rain. This is not rain. You haven't seen rain, mate. This is a tropical country right on the fucking equator. You have not seen rain." Which is fair enough, possibly. But yeah, that kind of like, you're looking at something like, no, that couldn't possibly be me. No, that's not me. That's someone else. You know, that was my evil twin brother. And you're like, what the fuck? Pure gaslighting. And this idea that Corbyn never told a lie when he began every fucking sentence whenever he was doing an interview with, "I have been very clear." And there's one thing that Corbyn was not. It was clear about anything. And so the fact that he's introduced himself in his head, he felt he was being really clear. If you think about it that way, in his head, he wasn't presiding over this whole anti-Semitic movement that the Labour Party became, that hounded two Labour MPs from Liverpool, Luciana Berger and Louise Ellman. Both of them hounded out of the party as MPs. They had to give up their party whip as MPs, resign as Labour MPs and become independents because of the anti-Semitism in Labour. But it wasn't Corbyn's fault. He was only in charge of It's like when Cameron was on fucking BBC Breakfast or something years ago, and he was like talking about the things he'd like to do. And I remember Philomena Kunk on the 2014 roundup of the year, the 2014 wipe, she just said, "Oh," and Barry Shippees, I think it was, "Well, what could he do? He's only the Prime Minister. It's not like he can do anything about it. He's only the leader of the country." Indeed. Hope everyone had a good day, said the Bishop to the choir boy. I was watching a video by Tim Wilson, and they were all Labour the same as Tories. This is a problem. Corbyn wasn't very active in stopping the anti-Semitism. I think he encouraged it. Delusion, very common. Graham, Corbyn is a very gay supporter. I saw him at the many rally of LGBT community. Yeah, cool. But, if he said something homophobic, he would still have said something homophobic. I'm not saying that he did say something homophobic, but the argument is that he makes is like, he did something that can be construed as homophobic, but because he's been to LGBT rallies, he can't possibly have done something homophobic. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. He's not used that excuse because I don't think he's said or done anything homophobic, but, if he did. Anti said as well, shown that when the first thing Starmer did was boot someone out for saying someone that even had a whiff of anti-Semitism. Can't remember what they tweeted, but they got booted out, and it would have happened if it was still Corbyn. Yeah, I mean, they probably wouldn't have been booted out if it was Corbyn. I remember that, actually. Can't remember for the life of me who it was and what they said, but yeah, I remember that. Religious wars, peace and love and peace. Yeah. Peace and love versus love and peace, yeah. Corbyn would make a great scarecrow. Corbyn was also anti-Tory, and the Tories wanted Brexit, and he wanted Brexit. Yeah, indeed. It coaxed the crows into eating the crops. That reminds me, why the heck does Johnson still have the whip? He hasn't been doing his job as MP for a single day after getting the boot from number 10. He's preparing for his big fucking re-entrance into politics. Ugh. Depressing, isn't it? Right. Thank you very, very much for joining me. I tried to open the Discord server about half an hour ago, and it's still not fucking opened. I've been online now for just over an hour because I did come on late. So you've got your hour's worth. If you want to throw in a super chat, now's the time to do it because I'm about to go offline. Well, I'm about to go off YouTube, but I'm soon to be on Discord. Yay! I've got 500 notifications. My God. Exactly 500. That is very satisfying, knowing there is a 5 and a 0 and a 0. Right, so if I do here... Good night and take care, says Daily Blase. Good night, sir. Good night. What is this? See levels and perks? I don't want to see levels and perks. I want to invite people to the after hours chat. So there's after hours chat, and then there's after hours, which actually has your video on. If you want to have your video, you can do that. That's fine with me. Invite people. This link is only going to last for 1 hour, guys. 1 hour. And then it's not going to work anymore. So you're watching this on catch up. You might have missed it. I just don't want people using the link for all eternity, because that would be a bit lavish. Right. There we go. Throw that in there. Da, 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 da. I love to see Priti Patel in gay parade. Throw tomatoes on it. We don't have any tomatoes, mate, because of the rain. All the rain in Spain stopped us getting tomatoes. No other country, just tomatoes. I need a boot to the head and maybe a cup of tea. Well, you don't need a boot to the head, mate, but a cup of tea always sounds good. Never a problem. Right, so thank you very much. Duke Vengeance says, Corbyn said he'll argue for Remain and did nothing with it. Well, yeah, a week before the EU referendum, half of all Labour Party voters, people who voted Labour, half of them who were polled, didn't know whether Labour were for or against Brexit. That's pretty bad. £2 from Phil Crossley. Thank you very much, Philip. You are a hero. You are absolutely awesome. So that's £2 off Charlie and £2 off Philip. Really appreciate it. So for anyone who doesn't want to go and join us on the Discord server, the link is there. If you want to go over there now, I will be there in a moment. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. No obligation. But I will be back on Monday, next week, Monday at 9 o'clock. Yeah? You ready for that? Sounds good? Yep, sounds good to me. Right, so thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.